We are live.
This is Literary Roadhouse. One short story once a week. I'm Anais.
I'm Rami.
I'm Maya.
And I'm Gerald.
And before we get started with this week's story summary, I wanted to let everyone know that we have started a Patreon campaign. This is really important for us because we want to expand the show to include 3 new shows. And quite frankly, me and Annie's are spending 60 hours a month doing audio editing, and we really need an engineer. So if you enjoy the Literary Roadhouse shows and you want to continue to get these shows and hear our sound quality improve and get more great content, please visit patreon.com/literary roadhouse.
Okay, great. So this week we're discussing The Rat King by Kerry Cullen. The song Waiting Game by Banks was chosen by the author to accompany this song. So if you haven't read the story, we're about to spoil it. So if you don't want to be spoiled, pause this episode, then come back after you've read the story. So the story is narrated by Loretta, who has recently broken up with her girlfriend for reasons not immediately known. That same evening, she tries to find a place to stay, but finds that her choices are mostly friends of her ex's. She ultimately ends up at the home of a customer at the cafe she works at, a man she calls the Rat King, because the New York City rats are inexplicably drawn to him. She and the Rat King start a relationship that is slow and not yet consummated. Loretta meets with her ex often to hash out the details of why they fell apart.
Great summary, Annie. So why don't we stop at the top level? How did everybody like or dislike the story?
I don't know.
It confused you, Gerald?
I do.
How about you, Remy? Did you like it? Did you
Yeah.
not? Okay, you did?
No.
No?
Much? No, not at all.
Oh,
Whenever we're ready, I'll go on my little...
Okay, we'll just wind you up and let you run?
Yeah,
Okay.
just give me the mic when it's
I actually liked the story a great deal. There were some small things that niggled at me, but the story interesting, and it took a while, but it did pull me in. And so I enjoyed it a great deal. And Annie's fell out. Come on, Annie, get back in here.
you don't get off that.
There she is. Nope. You got to discuss the Rat King.
Just trying to get away with it.
Run away!
What?
Hey, I actually like the story.
You can continue watching. All right, tell me, what did you like about it? Maybe I'll change my mind.
You know, I think that's something that we're going to really have to hash out because I like the story, but I'm not sure I could put my finger on why I liked it. There were some really obvious problems with the story, both in language and in pacing. But the ideas of the story, on its surface seem really simple. But as I thought about them, they started to kind of grow within me, and I started appreciating it a lot more than I initially did. Especially the juxtaposition of the 2 relationships, and why she left. Especially towards the end when she explains that she left because her girlfriend was too predictable. And yet there was something in that I don't know. There was a really nice juxtaposition between her ex-girlfriend and the Rat King. And also, there was an interesting statement said by the ex when she was like, you leave when things remind you too much of yourself. And eventually the next thing's going to remind you of yourself. But I actually think that the Rat King did remind her of herself. And so, there was just some interesting ideas going on that attracted me. And I haven't completely hashed out how I feel about them, but I do like it. How about you?
Yeah, so I need to be a little careful in discussing it because I think my expectations were so high reading the buzz around the story that then when I didn't love it, the disappointment was greater than it would have been otherwise. So I want to make sure that I'm not coming from a place of like frustrated expectations, even though that's sort of what happened to Loretta and why she broke up with her girlfriend. So maybe it's totally fair game.
Is that why she broke up with her girlfriend? When I sit and I think about why she broke up with her girlfriend, I don't actually think it was unmet expectations. Why do you guys think she broke up with her girlfriend?
I don't know. I mean, sorry, I come back to the sort of overall thing first. I really couldn't connect with the story. I think the opening was a bit sort of off kilter for me. I wasn't sure what was happening and whether it was sci-fi-ish or something. With she was things were breaking for her and things were falling apart. And I think, what is this? But then it's grounded in reality. So I didn't really understand the start. And then I really had trouble connecting with it completely. I've read it twice and
Yeah.
I thought second time I'll pick up the threads. So I don't know. I don't know why she broke up, and I don't really care.
Wow, you took the words right out of my mouth.
Wow.
Oh, the guys weigh
I
in.
was about to say.
Oh, they're agreeing.
Okay, I mean, I kind of know what Gerald's saying. I did read the opening like a good 3 or 4 times, not because I didn't think it was sci-fi or anything like that, but just because there was something so abrupt about it that it's like it was written in a way where I'm already supposed to care and I don't yet. So there was just a little bit of like, okay, so what exactly is happening here? It was a little too abrupt, even though I know they say you should start right in the action, but it was just, I don't know. It just didn't work for me either for whatever reason that I can't fully articulate right now. But I do think part of the crux of why they broke up is really, I didn't like Loretta. Like, she is so just kind of impossible in the way that she like, so what don't you like about your ex-girlfriend? Oh, that she's light and air and wonderful and everybody loves her and that's just boring. It's like she has this unrealistic expectation of what she's supposed to get out of a relationship. So and her ex calls her out on that accurately, I think. Even though we can get a little bit into later, I had a real problem with their dialogue. I found it a little grating, but I can get into the specifics of that in when we get to that. But yeah.
For me, originally I was like, why did she break up? At first, there is a little bit of magical thinking going on. The whole idea that if you're with somebody and things keep breaking, obviously you're not meant to be together. And there are people that, approach things that way. But what I saw in her, her girlfriend's light and airy and quote unquote perfect. And when you're with somebody like that, it's makes it so that there's an impossible unsaid standard for you to live up to. You can't be as good as them. And it makes the relationship very difficult if you're on the not good side. If you've got faults and you're with somebody that's like faultless and you can't live up to that, and everything you do is a problem and everything you touch breaks and everything, it doesn't feel human at that point. It feels like you're with like some archetype instead of being with an actual person. And so I did get it. I didn't like it, how it went down, but I totally got it. And, there was something in this story that made me smile a bit. And I don't know, I'm a little different from you guys in that I have actually been in a lesbian relationship before. I've been close up to some lesbian breakup drama. And the story was very, very it felt very real.
Including the dialogue?
Yes.
Oh, really?
Because let me tell you something, girlfriend. When you're dating a guy and you break up and you quote unquote want to talk about it, their lack of talking kind of like taps that down. But when you get two women together and you want to talk about it and decompress and quote unquote communicate, oh my God.
Yeah, but I felt like the dialogue, it wasn't so much that they were unpacking everything, like I believe that they would, but it was like their word choice or the way that they were doing it felt to me like when you first meet someone and you're performing for them, you're speaking in a certain way to show that you're a certain type of intellectual or you think a certain way, and you couch everything in like pop psychology terms. But I'm like, do you really still talk like this with somebody over a year later after you've been with them and have been intimate with them? Like, did you still have this like, I am performing at all times that I am smart as hell?
During
I feel like you do that
breakup scene. Yes.
Oh, wow.
I think that's why it grated me though. I'm like, I don't believe that if you've been with someone for over a year, you're still doing the whole like la 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 la. Yes, I am so witty. Although maybe that was intentional. Like maybe the reason why there was no like honesty or truth in the way that they were communicating is reflective of the fact that in the relationship they never got that close.
Exactly.
Yeah. So maybe that's why they fell apart.
And when I heard them talking, I felt like their communication was, I felt like they were two young women who'd read a whole bunch of psychology and talked to all their friends about how they should work stuff out, and they hadn't really ever been honest with each other or perhaps themselves. And so yeah, they're going to speak in Dr. Ozisms and, you know, pop psychologyisms, you know, and I know young people that are like that. I think I was probably like that. I know I was like that once upon a time in a land far, far away. And so, yeah, I actually found their dialogue quite realistic for their age and for their relationship. I felt like, you know, this was in New York, but it felt very familiar to, you know, friends that I've seen and my own experiences in San Francisco, you know, young, hip lesbians that are a little fluid and they're having relationships, and then the relationship breaks up and there's all this drama and you have to unpack it. But, you know, it's surface. A lot of that unpacking is surface because you're saying all the right things, but you're not feeling them necessarily. And for me, the story, I mean, it felt so real in that respect. Some of the problems I had with it were technical. There were some phrases that were repeated multiple times that I found annoying. You know, like metaphor, like you don't repeat the same metaphor in a short story. Like the story is not that long for you to have to repeat the same metaphor. You know, and the pacing was a little funny for me. It was a quick story. It in no way felt slow, but I felt like there were points where I didn't really get a chance to rest with the characters. Like I could have used a breath in a couple different spots. Yeah, I loved how her reaction to the Rat King. I really, really loved that dynamic, and I could totally see what she was seeing in him. It's totally not going to last. Oh yeah, I could totally see it, but it's not going to last.
Yeah, he's like the complete opposite of the ex.
Yeah, and he is externalization of everything she feels on the inside. So she's kind of lost, you know, and she has her own emotional issues, but he is on the outside kind of lost and has his own emotional issues. And she's got like this dark core, obviously, because she can't handle being with somebody that's so light. And he is perfectly comfortable being around so much dark. And so, yeah, I totally see what she sees in him. Rami just seems so confused. You're like, why would you want to be with a dude that's surrounded by rats?
I was literally like, when they were describing some of the more touchy scenes, I was just like, yuck and ew, nasty. Just even trying to visualize it, even though it didn't get into a lot of intimate detail. Thank God. Just,
that would have hit your limiter. You'd have been like, okay, I'm done. You them having on a sea of rats.
Yeah, and you know, with him, she gets to be the clean one. She's the one who's like cleaning the dishes and inspecting it after he's gone to bed to make sure there's nothing, like not a smudge, like, you know, that she learned from her ex. So now she gets to be the airy one.
Exactly.
Just barely.
Okay, so it seems like I'm the only one that actually really liked this story, which is.
However, you know, I like how with each story that we read, we get to know more about each other, because I think that's a very important disclosure that you made. And now I can get why you would be able to connect with the story in ways that the rest of us couldn't, is because you have gone through that experience and for you it was accurate. Whereas for us, for me, I'll speak for myself, it seemed very shallow. It seemed like I was watching an episode of some reality show, like, you know, The Real World or something, where it's just nonsense talk, just back and forth, and there's no depth behind it. And it's like, yeah, they try to make it dramatic, but as Gerald so accurately stated,
the lesbian real world of New York alleys.
Whatever it is, yeah, or girls, that show Girls. I've never watched it, but I heard
among the youth.
I had a thought that like this is like the Halloween episode of Girls. Like it felt a little bit like that.
You did not just say that. That is hysterical.
But
I don't know. I felt like there were some wonderful things in the story. I don't understand why I'm the only one that can see it.
I think
mean-
because for me it it started off a little bit strange, and I think at the start of a story you have to sort of connect with it on some level in some way, and I think that the first sentence, I moved in with the Rat King because things between my girlfriend and me fell apart. Of course, I mean this literally, and I just thought, no, you don't. Things broke, but I don't. She just lost me there, and I tried to stick with it, and it seemed like, so what? So, she's broken up with a girlfriend, and she's sort of she's almost having like dalliances with the Rat King and with her with the personal trainer guy, and
John, yeah.
and
She's not having a dalliance with the personal trainer guy. She had a fantasy and she left. That was not a dalliance.
I know.
What was the point then?
Okay, but I know exactly what Gerald is talking about. What Gerald's talking about, because this is very like on trend now. Like I think the reason why this got so many great reviews and I had such high expectations is because this is so like 2000s and 2010s, New York City type of fiction, where it's like taking a very basic thing that happens to tons of people, like a breakup, and then making it seem monumental because it's from the perspective of you. So it has this kind of selfish thing, like this I, which is fine, but then you better give me some freaking like plot twist with the Rat King. Like, is he going to turn into a rat at the end? Like, where's the horror? Like, bring me, like, okay, take this point you're trying to make, and instead of keeping it all under the surface, being like, my life is so uniquely horrible, when it's not, make it uniquely horrible, and then take the thing you're trying to say and make it a metaphor. That's what I kept waiting for, that twist at the end. We're like, okay.
It's in a metaphor, but maybe okay. So the story is called The Rat King. Okay. And within the story, he explains what a Rat King is with no space between the two words, which is kind of a disgusting middle-aged concept where you get a whole bunch of rats that have been together too long and they're like, their tails get all entwined with blood and stuff and they can't separate. And so they like attack things as a group. It's kind of a disgusting middle-aged concept. There's lots of paintings of it. They're gross, right? So her affair with the Rat King, okay, she was with this girl who really loved her, but she was breaking everything, and she sees herself as not being good enough. Like, she sees herself as dirty and as broken and as, not a good being. And so she finds this Rat King, and she is entwining herself in his life, and he is much closer to her, how she sees herself. Like he's happy being around the dirt and the filth, and he's happy being around the rats. And then later on, he explains what the Rat King is, and that he's not a Rat King, he's a Rat King. And it's this foreshadowing of what's going to happen in their relationship, where they're going to have like this messy, crazy, passionate love affair, get so entwined that they eat each other alive. And I felt like that was a really strong metaphor. I felt like that was really, really wonderful. And Gerald is shaking his head no. Am I the only one that saw that?
You're projecting all of these
Am I the only
No,
one that
I
saw
picked
the
up on that
resonance?
too.
It was,
No, Annie saw the resonance. It wasn't just me.
No. Yeah. No, I did. Like one of my notes, what I put it, something about how as the rat and the rat can become entangled, would they feed off each other parasitically, ? Was one of my notes. So I wanted to see this entanglement. I wanted to see this parasitic behavior, but then she doesn't get there. So I'm just like, okay.
Because it's a short story. You can't do that in a short story. There's not enough room.
You can.
It could be.
It can be a novella, a novelette.
No, you can. Please. You know who could have done it? Alice Munro could have done it.
Alice Munro could have done it, but not everybody's Alice Munro. Not everybody can cram an entire novel into 2,000 words.
I'm just saying it can be done.
Well, we said our limit was 10. She definitely had space.
I don't know. I enjoyed it. How did you guys feel about the language?
I liked it, and I quite liked the dialogue. The dialogue didn't annoy me as much as the rest of the story. I thought I thought it was sort of, when when she was talking to her ex and the sort of the little bitchiness that was going on between them, I quite enjoyed that, and I thought it was well written, not competently written. Yeah,
Is that a step above or a step below?
It means nothing, basically. It was nice.
Ouch.
Nicely written. How about that? I wish I could find something more to say about it, and I don't know what. I just can't. I just, So, so there you go.
How about you, Rami?
I thought the language was too flowery, used too many descriptive adjectives in single sentences. At times, I thought when there was a very weird transition that happened when she went outside to smoke, and suddenly appeared when she's sitting on this guy's porch. She just, I don't know, came out of nowhere. I don't know, tracked her down. Then they had that whole exchange.
It's funny because I didn't mind the content of that scene, but there was a tone shift in the language. Did you guys hear that tone shift in the language?
I was just confused. Where did she come from? Type of thing. It's just boop. Okay.
What's happening? Is Annie's disappearing? Yep, she's disappearing.
Yeah. I quite like the. I think the flowery language was sort of at odds with some of the rest of the language. It was like a hodgepodge of writing. It's like the opening. The opening sort of didn't fit with the rest of the story and parts of the language. And I said I quite liked the dialogue. I thought it was quite realistic, but then that didn't seem to fit with the. It was almost as if she was floating through this relationship breakup, and there was, she sort of touched on sort of various other people, and then she touched back with her ex, and it was just, I don't know. I'm really having trouble saying how I feel about this.
Well, I mean, it's a confusing story. And I think part of the reason why it's confusing is because the language, I mean, she's describing a confusing experience too. So the language is I think it's kind of meant to mimic that. I liked the dialogue. I felt like the dialogue was claustrophobic and saccharine and realistic for young women in that age and location. I felt like it was really accurate. It told me something about their characters. It kind of made me chuckle in a couple spots. I liked the beginning and some of the places where things got really gritty. I liked that, when she's describing the rats, I felt like that whole scene was extremely gritty. When she's talking to her girlfriend, that scene was really gritty. There was a weird transition in tone that happened, but I didn't mind it so much, but it did stand out to me. I thought it was interesting that Rami brought up the change, because there was something in that scene that changed. And I liked the beginning where it was really gritty. I liked the flowery language, but there were parts that weren't done well. And I was actually just looking for a quote where literally within a 2-sentence period, she uses the exact same flowery word. And that was just like, really? Like 2 sentences apart. It was something like something out the window or something. I don't know, but it was really noticeable. It stuck out like a flag. And it was definitely something that I felt would have been cut out by a more mature writer. And but at the same time, I feel like her writing is indicative of a young writer finding their voice. And this is going to be a really interesting voice in the next few years.
And there's some quite. I mean, I just looking back at the text now, and when the girlfriend, when she's sitting outside smoking, the girlfriend walks up and she says, "How have you been?" And then she says, "Poetic lately." It's sort of kind of nice, this sort of snarky.
It's just snarky and just snarky, pretentious little girls.
Yeah. Wait, Maya, was it this sentence when it says, "I watched the silver creases and the bags gleam in the moonlight, puddles flattened, glazed the street, transforming the alley into a palace." Then she says, "Heat leached out of the air, and oh no." And then she's
That's
gold light
another
gleamed
instance
through
of
the
it. The
windows
instance
above me.
I'm talking about, it was something like floating. I can't remember. It was really, really obvious, but she did it a couple times where she was literally using the exact same flowery language, like a sentence apart, which you don't do. You just don't do as a mature writer. And I think a good editor would have caught that. But I think this got published because there was so much potential in the story, and the story had so many things that aren't normally seen. Like, one of the things that I really appreciated about the story is that this story has a lesbian couple that have broken up, and in the breakup, after post breakup, one of the girls is kind of, touching on the idea of being with a dude. That is something that we don't write about because it feeds into whacked out male fantasies, and it's not something that we like to say publicly happens. But at the same time, female sexuality is extremely fluid. You talk to a lot of older lesbians, and they'll tell you they dated women in college, and they got married and had kids, and they fell in love with their best friend, and then they died with their best friend. Like, that happens, and I liked how fluid her just kind of going with the flow and her own sexuality was presented in a way it wasn't, she didn't need to explain it. The story didn't go into detail about why all of a sudden she was attracted to a dude and what her past was like and whether that was okay and the trauma, didn't go into any of that. It was just, she broke up with her girlfriend. This guy's weird, kind of interesting. Maybe I'll have sex with him, kind of missing the girlfriend. Like, it just felt really natural in a way that I appreciated.
Yeah, though I'd say she wasn't just kind of curious about dudes, because the first guy that she attempts to sleep at the house is John, the really hot personal trainer.
She didn't attempt to sleep with him. She dreamt about it and left.
I'm not saying she attempted it, but I'm saying from go. No. I'm saying from go, she is like,
she's a little curious
entertaining
the dark side.
I don't even know if she's curious. I feel like it's almost like she wants to do this as a total rejection of her ex.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like she is very gender fluid. It's not like she's like picking one team or the other.
And that happens. Yeah. It happens really frequently with women. It happens to a less frequent extent with men. Men's sexuality tends to be a little more rigid, but I've got some stories. So, I felt like Gerald's laughing at me again.
I've got some stories.
But I appreciate when sexuality is approached in a really realistic way that doesn't feel like it has to take the time to explain itself.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I guess what I'm saying, I really, really liked the Rat King and the thing with the rats and this whole kind of inexplainable phenomenon. I think my disappointment is just she didn't do more with it. Like, I think I'm going to end up rating this higher than I'm speaking. I can't articulate what it is that I liked. Like, I feel like it had it's like there was all these amazing ingredients, and then the final meal is a little lacking. But these ingredients are great.
I think that's why it got published. There's something about it that it has problems. It is not a flawless story. It is not even close to being a good story, but it's an interesting story, and there's so many amazing elements, but it's let down by lack of skill, I think. But you can tell that this writer is going somewhere interesting with it. So I don't know. I really appreciated it too. Can't really voice it. It's a weird story. So should we go ahead and rate this thing? Because I think we're all just a little confused about what the story is and how we exactly feel about it.
Yeah.
Well, one thing also that affected how I am viewing it is that last week I was primed with the expectation that this was supposed to be a horror story.
The reviews were like, "Oh, this story scared me."
Are people afraid of rats? Like, what? There was nothing scary about the story.
Maybe that's why, if you have a phobia of rats, but besides that, I didn't really see what.
Yeah, it was not scary. Like, I almost wanted to go to that commenter and be like, "You need to go and build some background. You're fine. Right? Yeah, go outside. It's cool."
It's okay.
Actually, Growing up, we had pet rats. We had 3 over the course of my childhood.
Yeah, I had friends with pet rats, but I never had them because of allergies. But I remember watching rats like playing on the subway tracks when the train wasn't coming.
No, these are different. These are pet rats. They're
Doing
really
more
cute.
than
They run
playing.
around.
It's like, can't you find someplace else to do that? Go get a room. Okay. Yeah, it's funny that, we've got people on the show that didn't like the story and they're a little hazy on putting their finger on why. I like the story. I'm a little hazy on putting my finger on why. I think this story is one that needs to be read. I think this story isn't one that someone's going to be able to tell you whether you're going to like it or not. But I do think it needs to be read just because it's so interesting. And I think it probably is a good conversation starter.
Mm-hmm.
If we had like a 4-hour club where we could just sit and like hash it out, I think it would be fun. But yeah. Right, except for Rami. Rami just horror. There's your horror flick for you, Rami.
I'm gonna go ahead and say to anyone who cares that you don't waste your time reading the story.
Wow, Rami.
Because
tell us how you really feel.
Our time. Yeah, I knew you'd say that too. So our time is such a precious commodity. So if someone has excellent fountain of youth or has made some sort of elixir to live infinitely, then please let us have some. But otherwise, there are 1,000,001 stories out there. So use your time wisely, and if you are judicious about how your time is used, don't use it to read this story.
I love you, Rami.
I was going to say, if we have a 4-hour thing and we're sitting around hashing it out, Ray and I'll go and play table tennis in the other room. That'll be fun. You tell us when you're done.
Okay, how are we going to rate this puppy?
I'll go for one of my lowest scores ever, 2.
Rami?
Wow. 0.5.
God damn.
Ouch! You've only done that once before. That was painful. That's really painful. And you did it just a couple weeks ago. You did that to Lyra.
No, I think
you did it
to
in
Lyra,
Slack.
He didn't even read.
He left because he had to leave early, but he left it in Slack. He said 0.5 in Slack.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and he also gave Wagon So 0.5.
Oh, yeah. Rami's a tough customer. I'm giving it a 4.
Yeah, I'm torn between a 3.5 or a 4, but I'm thinking a 4 because of the Kanechi prophecy, thinking of what I've given 3s and 3.5s to before.
Yeah, I think it's a solid 4. I think there are a lot of interesting ideas. I think the story stands, even though it has some flaws, and the flaws are significant. But for the right reader, I think they're going to enjoy it despite its flaws. It really could have used another editor. Like, seriously, I was reading it, and I was like, red pen. And then it would have been perfect.
It's not even an
also,
story.
If you're like, and
Cheryl, we love how when we're editing, we hear all your mutterances that we don't necessarily catch during the actual show. One of these days, Annie's, we need to cut them all together and put them as like a blooper reel. A whole minute of Cheryl
muttering in the corner.
Crazy. mutter.
Awesome.
Oh, it would be great. So let's keep track of that, Eddie's.
Okay. So yeah, I'm just basically going to say ditto to everything Maya just said, coming in at a 4. And I just want to get to the Rat Facts quiz.
Oh, fun. Rat Facts. Let's do a quiz.
Wait, something else I wanted to mention really quick before we start that is this story had, I guess, on this website, Friction or whatever, it had sort of a unique component to it where the author recommends a song. And believe me, I tried. I really did. But I think if you're going to go ahead and do that, then have the author recommend an entire playlist. Because a song is only 3-4 minutes long. So I looped the song maybe 3 times. And after that, I was just done with it. I was like, no, I can't do this anymore. So if you're going to have music that extends.
I don't think you have to listen to the music while you're reading the thing. I think the music sets the tone. It sets the tone. It's what the author was thinking of when they were inspired by the story. No, you listen to it as you start and then it trails off and you continue reading. I think
it definitely set the tone, yeah.
I think your problem is indicative to the fact that the story didn't capture you. Because if the story had captured you, you wouldn't have been concerned about re-looping the music. but it didn't capture you. So when the song ended, you're like, oh, the music ended. I didn't even listen to the music. I just read the story because I'm lame like that.
And just as a little warning, the longer we go on about it, my mark's going to start dropping. So we should move on to the game.
I am submitting for next week Attitude Adjustment by Tim Gutraud. It's in the Atlantic.
Ooh. I'm determined to get Snow by Zhao Bin on, so I'm going for that one again.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Mine's also related to snow. It's The Snows of Kilimanjaro by
Oh, Gerald, calm down.
Oh, guys, we're about to watch a bromance unfold right here, right now.
I know.
It's already unfolded.
Throws of romance. Oh, that's great. Okay, quiz away. What are we going to end up reading?
It's super simple. I'm going to give you a rat fact, and you tell me if it's true or false. That's it.
I like true and false.
Okay.
Yep. So I'm going to go Rami, Maya, Gerald. Rami. In Portugal, rat season is when rats fall out of trees due to heavy rain.
True.
False. They come points. Yeah, they swim up from the sewers because of the rain.
Oh my God.
Maya.
I'm so freaked out right now. I'm going to be scared to use the toilet for the rest of my life.
Maya. 2 rats can have upwards of 6,000 babies in their lifetime.
True.
True. Gerald. Rat teeth never stop growing.
False.
It's true. Remy. Rat tails grow back.
False.
False. Maya. Rats can chew through glass, cinder block, wire, aluminum, and lead.
True.
True. Gerald. The giant Gambian pouch rat can grow up to 15 pounds, which is bigger than my cat's, and can be used to detect landmines.
Chupacabras.
True.
It is true. Rami. Male rats compete for a mate by trying to bite each other's tails. It's false. I made it
True.
up. Maya. A group of rats is called a mischief.
True.
It is true. And Gerald. If you kill a rat's brain, its muscles continue scurrying about for about a day before it fully dies.
Oh.
False.
Oh.
It is false. I made that up.
Thank God. Thank you.
So Maya won. I'm just going to tell you the answer to the tiebreaker because it was just a curiosity I had. So the biggest known rat king, how many rats were in that rat king? It was 32 rats tangled together.
Wow.
I knew it was like in middle-aged art, but I didn't think they'd actually been real.
Well, they don't know if it's a hoax or not, but they have this mummified 32 rat mess.
I think it's I think it has to be a hoax.
Yeah.
Oh God. So next week, short story. I'm not okay. So next week, the short story we'll be reading is Attitude Adjustment by Tim Gutraud. It's in the Atlantic, and it looks interesting. It says, after surviving a gruesome accident, a Catholic priest struggles with life.
But before you go, share your rat facts and thoughts on this week's story at literaryroadhouse.com. Leave a review on iTunes, Stitcher, or Spreaker, and join our Comment King, a group of matted and entwined commenters that we feed off of for sustenance. The show is also part of a Podcast King, a tangled mess of shows that include the Literary Roadhouse Book Club and the Bradbury Challenge. And as always, share this podcast with your beady-eyed, buck-toothed friends. Until next time, read a good story.
Good episode, guys.
Yeah, wow, we finished on time. We're impressive.